Hey, wow, feedback. That's exciting. All right, let's see. I can figure this out. Okay, getting a little echo, but it's working, I think. I'm on a delay. Oh, that's not good. Let's see. All right, testing now. I think it's working. Okay. Very exciting. Oh, and there are people watching. Okay, I'm going to turn down my audio so that I'm not hearing myself quite so loud in my ears. And hey, we'll kick in. Well, hello. Gotta make sure it's working. Hey, if you're watching this, throw me a line in the chat and say hello so that I know that it's working. All right. Well, I'm going to assume that we are up and going strong. This is my, not my first YouTube live, but it's my first time where I've had to get encoders working and all kinds of crazy tech issues of the morning or of the evening or whatever this is. I'm a little thrown off this week. So why don't we start our time together just by taking a moment to get centered and pray in, as we like to say. So let's just take a moment to take a deep breath. Oh, it feels so good to take a deep breath. We come together in this hour to connect, to reconnect for some of us, to regroup, to reflect on the week, to check in, to share what's happening in our lives, in our groups, and to recommit to what's ours to do, to get on purpose and let the fire that is within us be used in a way that's productive to create positive change in the world. And we set this intention collectively, knowing it is for the betterment of all, and so it is. Thank you, God. Amen. All right. Well, hey, everybody. It's Mindy Audlin, and I'm here with the Spirit Groups program. It is our Sunday night fireside chat. This is the first time I've done this. I actually literally have the fire going, so you're here. It's nice and warm by my fireplace. So this is our Sunday night chat. And the intention when I first put this out there to those of you that are in our Facebook community at facebook.com/spiritgroups or facebook.com/groups/spiritgroups. I put this out on Monday just as a chance to connect with everybody because I know that your fall series is starting to wrap up. And I was thinking by now you probably have had a great experience with your group. You may be working on a service project. You may be planning your fun social outing together. But you're probably in a wind down mode for your first series and getting ready just to celebrate the holidays together with your small group. So I wanted to check in and see how you're doing, see how your groups are doing. And that was my original intention for this check-in on Sunday night. And then we just had such an interesting week, didn't we? We had a very interesting week and a very surprising week for a lot of us. And, a week that kind of, I know for myself, kind of threw me into a little funk. And I've been working with that. And some of you I know are probably incredibly happy this week and some not so much. And so I thought, this is a really great opportunity for us to get together and talk about truly what it means to be a leader in a spiritual sense, to bring our spirituality into our leadership as small group leaders, as leaders in your family, as leaders in your community. So that's what the intention is for tonight, is that we not only check in and see how you're doing with your groups, but also to check in with each other and to see how you're doing. How are you navigating the changes that are happening in our world? Because with God, all things have the potential to work for good. So how do we do that? How do we nurture that? For me, my book of the week, right here, Byron Katie, one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite books. I think it's kind of funny to be reading that this week. But I've been reviewing Loving What Is. See it? Loving What Is. This is a really great book, by the way. And I wanted to just recommend it just because, one, it's been helping me this week, but also it's a really great way whenever you're in a leadership position. It's always important to notice your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own feelings, and then when you notice that they're fear-based, or you notice they're based in anxiety, or whatever you notice that is not truly aligned with who you are, you do the work on yourself first. And this is a really great resource to be able to identify the thoughts that you're thinking that's creating the feelings that you're feeling, and to be able to reframe them in such a way that we can be at peace with whatever is. So it's a great tool. If you're having any issues personally, I think it's a great tool to use. So highly recommend a little Byron Katie for you this week if you need it. So that being said, I thought I'd touch base with those of you that are primarily with those of you who are leading spirit groups, although anyone who's in a position of leadership and wants to bring your spirituality into your leadership, hoping these are going to be tips that will be useful for you as well. We know that there's much more to leadership than getting to say how things go. That there is, or at least the potential is there to bring the fullness of who we are, to bring spiritual principles into our leadership. And so for today, I wanted to just touch base with those of you who are serving in a leadership capacity, whether it's in a spirit group or leading a spirit group program, or in a New Thought ministry, or wherever you may be serving in a leadership role, to be able to become very conscious of the principles that we believe in, the principles that we teach, and to not just be giving them lip service, but to actually be expressing them in our lives. One of the things that has been present for me this week is how important diversity is to me and to many of the people that I know and care about, and that yearning for us to celebrate diversity is very strong within me. And what I have come to realize this week is that in honoring that value of diversity, it means honoring people who think differently, people who have different ideologies, people who have different strategies and ideas for how they think the world should work, that's diversity as well. And so we are honoring diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of backgrounds, and all kinds of expressions of diversity as we move into what it means to be a leader. So for those of you that are leading groups, I think this is a great little opportunity for us to experiment in the laboratory that is our life. You may have people in your small group that are having, polar opposite reactions to what's been happening in our world. And you, as the leader, are the facilitator of these discussions. And I think the really great opportunity we have is to learn as a culture how to be in dialogue where we can express ourselves authentically, passionately, and respectful that other people have the same right. And your small groups are actually a really great place to begin practicing this, to see what it's like to listen to someone whose viewpoint maybe you disagree with, and to be able to listen respectfully and to let their viewpoint do one of two things. Usually what will happen when we're in dialogue with someone with a different ideology is what tends to happen is it either opens our mind to see things a little differently, and we're blessed by that, or it gives us clarity to be able to believe more firmly in the things that we hold true. So either way, it's a good thing as long as we can hold those dialogues in a way that's respectful and peaceful, and we can all grow from it. So that's the invitation to you as a group leader this week, is to look for opportunities where you don't always have to agree. Actually, when we first started doing spirit groups, I had someone in a group say, we were watching the curriculum with our group, and there was someone who just really didn't agree with what you said about connection, or I don't even remember what it was, but they really disagreed with it. And so it made them want to stop watching the curriculum. And I'm like, what? Don't stop watching it because you disagree. Allow that to create the dialogue, because that's where the richness comes in. The idea is not that you surround yourself with people who agree with everything that you think and everything that you do and everything that you say. The idea is that you surround yourself with people who can honor that space where you can be authentically you, where you can say what you need to say, and they can listen and really receive it. And it may or may not change their mind, but they can love and accept you exactly as you are. So the story that came to mind, I brought my book of Luke over here. So I've been thinking about the Good Samaritan, because this is what comes to mind for me as I'm looking at what's happening in the world. So I know you all know this story, but just to kind of give you the context, so there's a lawyer who asked Jesus to, basically it says, just then a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. He wants to put him to the test. Teacher, he says, what must I do to inherit life? And he said, what is written in the law? Tell me the laws of how do you do this? How do you have life and have it abundantly, as Jesus said he wanted us to have? What do you read there? And so it says, Jesus answered, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. This is the foundation of all that we do in our spirit groups. And that was Jesus' reply, is this stuff. This is the law. This is how it's written. This is what you're supposed to do. So the lawyer, of course, with his probing mind, asks him, he says, well, so the neighbor says, well, who is my neighbor? He wants to justify himself. Tell me who is my neighbor. And so that's when Jesus tells this story that we all know about, the man who's going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, which was a very dangerous route down the mountain into Jericho. And he says he fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, went away, leaving him half dead. And if you've ever felt that half dead feeling, that's the moment we're talking about, when we feel defeated, when we feel beat down. So here's this man, and it says, by chance a priest who was going down that road, when he saw him, passed by on the other side. So there's the priest, the one who should have been the one, you would think, to stop and help. But no, he passed on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. A Levite was like an associate priest, someone who should have helped, someone who would have been of the same mind, someone who would have been of the same culture. But he passed by. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. Now, the Samaritan here is a big deal, because in those days, Samaritans were a different ethnicity, they were a different religion, and they were traditionally an ethnicity and a religion that did not get along well with the Jews. And this is who Jesus is talking to, the Jews. So a Samaritan, if you think of your worst enemy, like the person that you would most not want to count on when you're beaten down, that's who comes by. There's this Samaritan, and this Samaritan has pity. And it says he went to him and bandaged his wounds. He poured oil and wine on them to help heal him. He put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, took care of him. The next day, he took out 2 denarii. That's about the equivalent of about 2 months' rent. Imagine 2 months' rent that you fork over for someone that you just met who had a hard time. Take care of him. And when I come back, he said to the innkeeper, I'll repay you for whatever you spend. And so Jesus says, which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? And of course, the lawyer says, it was the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said, well, go and do likewise. So Jesus was very clear that our mercy and our compassion and our goodwill, our love, is not just intended for those who think like us, who do the things that we want them to do. That compassion, that mercy is designed for us to share with everybody. And that is, Jesus only gave us a couple commandments, and that is love God, love each other. And that's what it looks like. And it's not always easy, But when we return to principle, when we return to what we know, I think it helps us navigate how do we use the intensity of the feelings we may be feeling, and how do we direct them in a way where it's creating the change that we want to see in the world. So we look to our principles and we know there is only one power and one presence, and it is good, and that all things have the potential to work for good. So we take ourselves back to principle and what we know to be true. We take ourselves back to what we know about our thoughts creating reality, and our thoughts creating reality because our thoughts direct our feelings. So when we're feeling fearful, we know that we're not actually in the most productive state to create the things that we want to create. And usually when we're upset, it's because the things we want to create, we feel like there's an obstacle to it. But most of the time, the greatest obstacle is the way we're feeling about it. So if we can shift our feelings and use that passion and use that drive to create what we want and not fight against what we don't want, we'll have a lot more success. And so this week is a return to remembering what your mission is. What are you here to do? What is your purpose? What is your passion? What is the mission of your church, your organization? And then what are you personally here to do? I think in times like this, it's a great awakening to what is mine to do. And, there's all this passion and all this emotion to want to do it, like even more than ever, to want to take that mission of transforming people's lives, creating connections, connecting with source, connecting with each other, connecting the planet. That there's an intensity that I feel in that, thanks to the events of the week. That intensity has increased, and the key is to keep that intensity rooted in a vision that's a positive, love-driven vision for creating a world that works, taking care of our earth, taking care of each other. So that's the invitation, is to be really clear on what you're here to do. Because when you're, if you're sailing out at sea, you've heard this metaphor before, I'm sure. If you're out at sail and you know where you're going and a storm comes up unexpectedly and the winds come, and the fear is, oh, I'm going to get capsized. Well, that could happen. Or we could just adjust our sail and we can use that wind to take us where we want to go in a way that is accelerated. And that's the invitation, is to use all things for good. And you can do that when you know where you're going. And so that's the invitation, is to reconnect with your mission, your purpose, and then tap into the passions of your group. This is a great opportunity to touch base with your group and to see what are they passionate about? What are the things that they are wanting to create? Maybe they feel like there are obstacles to those things now, but we know that nothing has to stop us, that we just hold in mind what we want to create and use our voice. I like the idea of acting local and being vocal. That's what we're here to do. Is we're here to create change, and that's not just by sitting and saying it's all okay and it's all good and I'm going to be happy and peaceful and it's like those are all good things. And we can have that happiness and we can have that peace as we are holding that vision for what we want to create, as we are sharing our voice for what we believe in and being a stand for the things that we want to see in the world. So that's the invitation. And, for me, in asking myself this week, what is mine to do? It's to be in support for you as leaders of spirit groups and leaders in this movement. I love you and I support you, and my greatest joy is in seeing the things that you're doing in your communities to connect people, to serve the community, and to have awakenings to your own spiritual potential. So what I'd like to invite you into is to join me on Sunday nights and sit by the fireplace and connect and talk. And right now I'm on YouTube and I'm kind of figuring this thing out. It's not, I don't have all the interaction that we will have. So I'll get all the technology worked out. My goal is to stay connected with you and to hear what's going on with you. So we'll do some book studies. We'll do some interviews. I'll share what I'm seeing out in the field that would be helpful, I hope, to you as group leaders. If you can't join me live, you can always watch the recordings, and we'll keep in touch. and stay connected as we take on the mighty calling that is ours to take on. So thanks for watching. Bless you. Leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your insights, leave anything you want me to talk about next week. And I look forward to staying ongoingly connected with you. So blessings to you, and thank you for all the work you're doing in inspiring infinite connections. Take care. Bye-bye.